Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Recovery Clinic. My name is Ashley, and I'm a person in long-term recovery. We have a very super special guest here today. In fact, I'm going to be a little honest with everybody. I'm pretty nervous about this one. But before we get started with that, I just wanted to remind everybody, our peer conference is going to be September 8th, 9th, and 10th at the Wyndham on the riverfront. So, if you have not signed up for that conference yet, you definitely need to go to Mid-South's website and you need to register as soon as possible. If you have any questions about a scholarship, if you live more than 100 miles from Little Rock, please send me a message or an email today. I need to get that information as soon as possible. So, now I'm going to introduce our special guest. I'm very excited about this. This is Little Rock District Assistant Special Agent in Charge, Jarad Harper. Good morning, Jarad. How are you?
Good morning, Ashley. It's a pleasure to be here, and certainly it's a privilege and an honor to be here and be able part of your show today. And just hopefully the folks that are listening in might gather some intelligence or might gather some guidance or direction, so that just here to help out in any possible way.
Absolutely. So as we were getting ready for this yesterday, he was sharing with me some of his passion and reason why he does what he does. And so I just want to let him kind of talk about his background, his history, how he got here to Little Rock, what exactly it is that he does, and his passion behind it.
Thanks, Ashley. And so my name is Jarad Harper. I am the Assistant Special Agent in charge here in the Little Rock District Office for the Drug Enforcement Administration. And such a pleasure talking with Ashley yesterday, a little bit about my background. So I grew up in a small southern town in Missouri, went to high school, went to college in St. Charles, Missouri, if you all know where that's from. And really at a young age, really wanted to do something where I really felt like I was helping other people. And so I can remember, Ashley, when I was a little boy, sitting at McDonald's with my parents, and I saw this Missouri Highway Patrol trooper walk into the restaurant. I'm like, man, those shiny shoes and that hat and that, that belt across his chest. I'm like, that's what I want to be, So that was sort of just something I thought, man, I just want to be able to help others. And and through high school, I got involved with the community, and I got involved with my local church and with ministry and did youth ministry, and just really felt that sort of a calling. So it all kind of just came together after college, and went into the police academy there in St. Louis County, and was a policeman for almost 10 years, and then decided, you know what, I think I want to do maybe a little bit something different on a bigger scale to help. And that's when I came across the Drug Enforcement Administration and applied, and was lucky enough to get into the academy and graduate. And here, 17, 18 years later, I end up in Little Rock. And so it's been an amazing opportunity throughout those 25 years in local and federal law enforcement, just to be able to encounter people and help them. But part of our job, Ashley, is enforcement. So that's a big part of our mission with DEA. And, I saw sort of both sides of it. I saw the local side of it. Now I've seen the federal side of it. And with DEA, we're going after these major drug trafficking organizations and these transnational criminal organizations that really operate not just in the United States, but operate on a level that is, worldwide. So we're trying to get the worst of the worst out there off the street, trying to protect and serve in a bigger way. But I'll tell you, I really felt like when I got this opportunity to come to Little Rock, that there would be an opportunity, not just one, but many opportunities to really reach out and engage with the community. And, it's been a pleasure. I've only been here 2 months, but I can see that the law enforcement in the state of Arkansas have really taken a stand to try and help beyond just enforcement. And when I say that, we know that we cannot arrest our way out of this opioid epidemic that is just really a beast that's out there right now. I mean, we're looking at 343 lives that we're losing every day to overdose, and it's just an epidemic that I'm telling you, we're going to have to lock arms, Ashley, with the entire community around here to get in front of this thing.
Right, absolutely. And, you know, I'm so glad that you talk about that today, because one of the things that you and I talked about on the phone yesterday was that for a long time you got to see one-sided of the problem, which was all of the people who were deep in it and lost. And so since you've come to Little Rock, I know that you've been on a special that we had with Laura Monteverde here on Channel 4, and you talked with Kyle and Michaela and Sean, some of our local peers, and you shared with me how interesting it was and how heartwarming it was that you got to see the other side of this, what happens whenever we give these people help and we show them that there is a way out. And I know that you shared specifically how you really looked up to Kyle for his life and what he'd been through. You want to tell me a little bit about that experience?
Yes, Kyle was a pleasure to talk to, and just his testimony about, I think he just celebrated 4 years recovery, and just seeing a guy like that has seen that side of life that I personally have never been able to see. But what I can tell you, Ashley, is I've talked to parents, I've talked to kids whose parents have been addicted and dependent on narcotics, and just the horrific pain that you can feel, when you're talking to someone that is facing the challenges that everyone goes through when they're struck by being dependent or addicted to a controlled substance. And it's just heartwarming to see folks like Kyle and you, Ashley, going on 2 years recovery. Is just, we see usually, Ashley, people that are, I don't want to call it rock bottom, because I believe everybody has their own rock bottom.
Right.
But I'm telling you, we encounter people usually at their worst, or sort of towards that bottom pillar. It's so, yes, we have to do our job because we signed an oath and we raised our hand to serve and protect. But, just seeing the pain is typically when we show up and that 911 call comes out, people are counting on you to show up. And when we show up, we see people usually at their worst. But to see people in a program like Ashley, you and Kyle and many others here in the state of Arkansas that have came out of that gutter, so to speak, and are walking on solid ground and a solid foundation, and being able to be a testimony and a light to the people here in Arkansas, what an amazing opportunity. And I'm telling you, the DEA wants to be a part of that. We want to be engaged with the community. We want to be able to talk to the community. We want to talk to families, Ashley, and we would love to hear the other side of the story, where people are now that have came out of that gutter and now walking on this foundation so they can be a light to others. Can you imagine? I was sitting here driving over here thinking, man, I wonder if we could ever fill like the Arkansas football stadium with just people that have been recovered, are in recovery in this peer recovery group. Wouldn't that be an amazing goal, Ashley, if we had people that said, you know what, we're going to take a stand, and we're gonna I challenge them. I call out a challenge to everybody that's listening this morning. Step up to the plate. The game's not over. I know from talking to many people that I've arrested or encountered on the street that they know they're playing a game. But today, I'll tell you, with this fentanyl, Ashley, you can't play with it because
that's very true. I mean, it's like a one time and it's over. It's done, and that's a scary thought right now. I want to touch base that you called everybody to action, and I think that's a great thing. I think it's a marvelous idea, and I want to make it known to everybody out there that at this point in time, what he said is that the DEA doesn't want to just come in and bust everybody down and take them all out and put you and lock you up. Like, the goal here is to be in recovery, to get better and share the light and hope with others. And you were saying that a lot of the people that you encountered, that you felt like that was part of their bottom. And so I'm sitting here thinking, and I'm thinking to myself, well, so if the DEA busted in my house, I think that might be a bottom for me. You would think that. And so, I think it's so wonderful that we have people like yourself. We have Director Lane. We have all of these people who are backing this peer movement so wholeheartedly. There is a way out. We don't have to suffer anymore. And, all we want is to get better and get better together. But right now, I know that we talked about the opioid epidemic here in the state of Arkansas, and actually it's all over the world. But focusing right here in the state of Arkansas, I know that fentanyl is something that is widespread right now. And, not just fentanyl like you get from the doctor, but carfentanil and other versions. And so would you mind explaining to all of those who might not know specifically? Because even myself, I was never introduced to carfentanil. I was never introduced to this. Thank God I wasn't introduced to it. And so some of us may have some questions out there. What is fentanyl?
No, that's a good question, Ashley, because a lot of people just don't know. But it is a synthetic illicit opioid, and what fentanyl does and the danger behind it, it's odorless. It's something that can be put into other narcotics and laced with fentanyl can be found in cocaine. It can be found in, and we're seeing it, methamphetamine. It can be found in heroin. It can be found in counterfeit pills, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But fentanyl, it's a man-made synthetic opioid that's coming from Mexico, China, India, and it's being made and it's being mass-produced and by the cartels in Mexico. And right now we're working cases, and that's the type of level cases the DEA works, involving the Sinaloa cartel, the CJNG, which is the Jalisco New Generation cartel. And these cartels are just making money hand over fist, and they're not worried about people losing their lives, Ashley. They're worried about the next dollar they're going to make.
Right.
And that mass production is being sent across the border. It's going up through Texas into Oklahoma and right here in the state of Arkansas.
And that's a terrifying thought. I'm sure, like most other people, I've watched on Netflix Narcos, or some of these, the Queen of the South. So, that's the version of the cartel that I see, but you guys see a totally different version of that, and that's not, realistically, I would rather live in my fantasy land than truly believe there's something that evil out there,
Sure.
So, you explained to us what it is and where it's coming from, but explain to us kind of how they're, why is it so dangerous, and how is it that they're putting this into these pills and stuff so that you have no idea how much is in just even one pill or 10 pills. It can vary in every one of them.
No, that's so true, Ashley, and we're telling the folks, and it's a real message that I hope sticks with some of the folks that are listening, that one pill can actually kill. And that's what we're seeing across the state of Arkansas and actually worldwide, is these counterfeit pills that, whether it's a Xanax that you think you're going to take, or Adderall, or Ritalin, or Percocet, or whatever pill you want to think about, oxycodone, we are seeing fentanyl being laced with these pills, and they are being pressed, and they're being made to look just like a exact replica of a Xanax bar or an Oxy 30. So these dealers and distributors know that the demand is high, the profit margin and the net profit is huge. Ashley, you can get a kilo of fentanyl probably in China for $3,500, and from that 1 kilo make 500,000 counterfeit pills and net over $1 million. So that's the kind of money that's in this thing, and it's just being driven for the wrong reasons, and people are literally dying every day. And I'm telling you, 343 people, Ashley, a day. I mean, we're just in a year's time, 92,183 people have overdosed and died, and the majority, 80%, are from opioid overdose. And fentanyl is a key component of this, and we have to understand that just a couple granules, Ashley, of this fentanyl can kill, and it can be in anything. So, you know, you hear about these college students that are taking, you know, some of this stuff to stay awake, and they're thinking they're going to be more alert and they can study longer because, you know, they're taking some of this stuff, and lo and behold, they wake up the next day and their roommate's finding them dead because it's laced with fentanyl. Right.
And that's just, you know, I heard a story not too long ago about someone that I know personally, that they have a sibling that it was literally their first time to try a drug, and they overdosed and died because it was laced with fentanyl. And that's a terrifying thought. So, you know, when you're talking, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking that this is so surreal. This is stuff that we see on TV shows. This is stuff that, you know, that your average person doesn't talk about or hear about on a daily basis. You know, we know that some of these things happen, but to talk to someone who sees it in real life happen is completely different. And you know, this is one of those things that I find very interesting. And I talked to you yesterday, we talked about how fentanyl is sold, especially like you were saying, you know, in such large quantities from China and then being pressed and made into more pills where it's sold here. How is this stuff getting here?
Yeah, so that's a great question, but I'll tell you, Ashley, any mode of transportation you can think of, whether it's by car, by semi-truck, by air, by boat, where there's a will, these dealers, I'm telling you, these cartel members, etc., these cell heads that are literally transplants from Mexico, the southwest border, and elsewhere, China, they're sent over here to find areas that are excluded. And as you know, Arkansas has a lot of rural areas, and we're finding these people that'll set up shop. They'll actually set up a pill press operation, so to speak, and just operate right out of here, the state of Arkansas. And these pills can be mass produced. They're getting these pill presses that can produce thousands of pills in just minutes.
That's crazy. That's insane. And you know, the thing about it is whenever I was still getting high, and I remember, you know, like I said, fentanyl was not widespread to the people the circle that I was in at that given point. And so I remember it was really difficult at times to find stuff, and now it's not at all. And that's just, it's terrifying to me. Now, yesterday we talked about the dark web some. So this is one of those things that I see on TV and I go, wow, the dark web, that's crazy. Is that real? So tell me about how this plays into fentanyl.
Well, I'll tell you, you know, kids are very experimental, as you know. I say kids, I mean, some of these kids are starting to use at 12, 13 years old, and you know, it's just a sad state of affairs. But I'll tell you, you know, when we encounter folks on the street, everyone has a cell phone, right? And if you're a parent, you know, and you have kids, their cell phone is their life. And with that cell phone comes internet. And you know, used to, you know, when I was a kid, Ashley, it was a laptop was the greatest thing in the world, right?
Right.
But now these iPhones and just these cell phones that are literally like a laptop. I mean, literally have every capability of accessing the internet, whether it's on the clear web or the dark web. And I'll tell you, all you got to do, and everybody knows that Google's a powerful machine, and all you got to do is Google some of these .onion sites, and they will take you right to the deep web or the dark web, and you'll find these nefarious vendors online. It's like a eBay on steroids. in this dark web, and you'll find vendors literally that are selling everything under the sun. Marijuana, heroin, ecstasy, fentanyl, methamphetamine, carfentanil. I mean, it's like a drugstore online on steroids, and you know, they're operating on these forums, you know, Reddit, some of these nefarious forums where literally the communication is hard to intercept. It's end-to-end encryption, and they know that it's hard for law enforcement to defeat, but what they don't know is we're also working undercover in those forums as well, so they'll play at their own risk.
Right, absolutely. So, for the people that are out there listening, can you offer any advice to them about, you know, if they have, like, for instance, I know that my brother has a daughter who's 12 and a son who's 9, and they both have cell phones. Is there any kind of advice you can give to parents out there on what exactly they should be watching for, or what they should have on that phone to help stop some of this?
I'll tell you, the parents out there, if there's any listening, I would just say you need to be super macro engaged with what your kids are looking at on their phones. If you see something you don't know what it is, whether it's, you might see Wicker or hear them talking about Telegram or Instagram or Snapchat. These are all ways that these kids are communicating in an encrypted format, basically. It's not just text messages anymore. It's not phone calls. It's WhatsApp. And we see this criminal element that sneaks into these applications, and they grab a hold of our kids, and they're funneling this poison to them in every form or fashion, and the parents don't even know about it, Ashley.
No idea. And that's, I mean, I can't imagine. I'm so grateful that I grew up in the time frame that I grew up in, you know. So that the worst thing that we had to worry about was danger stranger, you know?
Right, no doubt.
And that's, danger stranger takes on a whole different meaning these days. Absolutely. So I know that we talked a lot about fentanyl, but I know that's not the only bad thing out there.
No.
So what else is attacking the natural state these days? What else is really taking us down that you guys are trying to put a stop to?
Well, I'll tell you, Ashley, you know, we are seeing not just fentanyl and heroin, which, you know, are the opioids that we talked a lot about here initially, but methamphetamine is coming on very strong in the state of Arkansas. In fact, Ashley, there was, I think, 35% increase in overdoses involving methamphetamine. And just our offices, and we encompass the whole state of Arkansas, but we have a big influence and footprint in Little Rock, of course, and Fayetteville, Fort Smith, some of those other areas as well. And I'm telling you, I got to think that we've probably seized upwards of 500 pounds of methamphetamine that's just coming through the state of Arkansas. And it's coming like a locomotive. And the methamphetamine today, Ashley, this is pretty scary, is coming in at 98, 99% pure meth. And back, you know, when we were kids, I mean, the purity rate for meth was not even close to that. But the demand, unfortunately, is so high. And these cartels, again, on the southwest border, and I've called them out initially earlier in the show, the Sinaloa and the CJNG are mass producing these super labs in Mexico. And the purity rate that they're making this meth that's at just a lethal rate, 98, 99% pure meth. That's insanity. But that's what we're seeing in every sample that comes through our lab. And what we're also seeing in the fentanyl, there's 26% of the pills and stuff that's sent to the lab is coming back as a lethal dose of fentanyl. So that's scary. We're living in scary times, and I don't want to belabor the point about counterfeit pills, but the scariest thing about these pills is the people just don't know what's in them. And the kids that want to experiment, even one time we've seen it, these kids are waking up dead the next day because it's laced with fentanyl. So I want to throw that message out there the best I can, that one pill can really kill, and we're seeing it across our nation, an influx in these pills. So if I could say one thing, I would just say we got to be super alert of what our kids are doing, what they're watching, what they're looking at, who they're talking to, you know, and it's these cell phones are powerful machines.
Absolutely, absolutely, they are. I was reading here some of the stuff that we talked about yesterday that I took notes on, and we were talking about how we could see on TV all these violent crimes that have started. I mean, there's always been violent crime, but the amount that we see on TV today, I mean, you turn on the news and there's something horrific and tragic that's happened in our state, something different every single day. And even going from morning news to evening news, there's also something else that's extremely tragic, a murder or, you know, something along those lines. And so do you see a correlation in the amount of drugs that have been coming into the state and all of this?
Absolutely, Ashley. You know, it's sad to say, you know, we have a huge uptick in violence, and we're working with our U.S. Attorney's offices in the Eastern District of Arkansas and the Western District of Arkansas, and we're really locking arms with our state and local partners because with this influx of narcotics coming into our state brings a level of greed with these dealers. And, you know, money breeds violence, greed breeds violence, and with, I'll tell you, you know, more so than not, I can say the majority and probably above the majority of drug busts that we make comes guns. When there's drugs, there's guns. When there's guns, there's money. When there's, you know, and they all come together full circle. And I'll tell you, the violence that we're seeing is horrific. But make no mistake, we are, like I said, locking arms with our state and local partners, and we are going to continue to lock arms with our community and the resources in our community to put some of these violent traffickers and bring them to justice. So we're working overtime, and I'll tell you, we got a big hill to climb here.
Absolutely. So we talked yesterday a little bit about some of the things that the DEA is doing that you guys have going on, and I know you talked about that some of it is stopping the criminal activity, and then, you know, some of the other stuff that you're doing is prevention. You guys are you're involved in the take back. You guys are very involved in the community engagement. You know, you back us, the peer community. Tell me a little bit about what the DEA is doing in the natural state. What can we see from you guys?
I'll tell you, the DEA, like I said, we want to be a solution, and we know, and I said earlier, we're not gonna arrest our way out of this problem, and we know that the community has amazing resources. Peer recovery is a huge asset to the state, and I'll tell you, we just launched, Ashley, in the New Orleans Field Division, it's Operation Engage. And what Operation Engage is that we have figured out that we have got to connect in a bigger way with our community. And that means everybody, every resource that we can think of, whether it's faith-based community, whether it's prevention, whether it's recovery, whether it's the counseling community, the educational community, everybody has a part and a piece to this thing, and I think the only way that we're going to get in front of it is to allow everybody to step up into the game and do their part, and I think that's the only way we're going to win the game, is to be able to recognize the value that everybody brings to the table. And with the DEA, we know there's some amazing resources here in the state of Arkansas. So we are actively engaging with all of those professionals. You mentioned Director Kirk Lane. So we work with the state police. We have an amazing task force officer community that probably encompasses 53 different local law enforcement agencies just within my 3 offices. And they are a huge pinnacle of what we do. I mean, if we did not have those task force officers, we would not be able to do just an inch of what we are able to cover here in this state of Arkansas. But I'll tell you, we have a diversion agents, and diversion is a unique skill set. There's agents that work in all of our offices. These diversion investigators, they look at some of the regulatory issues that are going on in some of these doctors' offices when it comes to prescribing pills and et cetera. So they look at certain compliance issues and regulatory issues, so we work with them. As you know, Ashley, we've encountered some of these doctors and nurses that are over-prescribing, prescribing without a medical purpose, not giving proper exams, and not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and hiding behind a white coat, and calling themselves a doctor, but really, in reality, we've had to arrest a few doctors just this year for those very nefarious things. And so we look out for those violations that's going on in the community as well. So, and then there's our enforcement piece, and we're ramping it up. We're locking arms with the Little Rock Police Department, some of these the state police, and we're starting to develop task forces here in the state of Arkansas to go after some of these sources of supply that's really poisoning members of our community.
And I know that you guys have also, I know you talked about having, what did you say, in 53 different communities you guys have partnered up with?
All these state and, well, the local police, you name it, Little Rock Police Department,
right.
North Little Rock Police Department, Maumelle, just you name it, Conway Police Department, all of these state and local authorities, Arkansas Community Corrections, Division of Youth. I mean, we are partnering with many law enforcement authorities that we can in the state of Arkansas. And I'll tell you, as a supervisor here for DEA, I'll take the help from anybody because everybody has an expertise, and every day we should be trying to change our best to get in front of this epidemic.
Absolutely. And I know that we have a lot of peer recovery support specialists in different parts of the state that work alongside some of the different various parts of the law enforcement, you know, to show people that there is a new way, that there's a better way, that they don't have to live like that anymore. And it's so important to have all these different pieces of the puzzle fit together because, you know, recidivism is a huge rate. And it's because, I believe, it's because that, you know, they know that they're doing wrong, but they don't know what to do right. Does that make sense?
Totally.
So, you know, whenever peer recovery comes into the picture, we can say, you know what, I've been exactly where you are. Exactly. Let me show you. Take my hand and let me show you where we're going and how to do it. And I know that I read a study from Yale that said over the course of 4 years that they had put in 5 different ways, they had put peers into the judicial system in this specific part of Pennsylvania. And the recidivism rates for mental illness and substance use disorder were something like 70-something%. Over the course of 4 years, working with these same specific people, the recidivism rate went down to 27% within that pilot group. You know, and that's a huge number. That is an incredible number. So, you know, if we all do our part to work together, and that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody is in the law enforcement piece. And clearly there's going to be some of us that, you know, there's going to be some people that are not peer recovery specialists. But people like my parents who walked beside me through all of that storm, and they had to find their own way to deal with it and cope with it. You know, they can help other parents that are walking through the same problem. And, you know, you talked about the Division of Youth Services. We've got peers in the Division of Youth Services, you know, and we're wanting to eventually start a youth peer program so that there can be other peers who have come out on the other side of hell and are willing to go back and help people come through. And I think that's just, it's extraordinary that we have the backing that we have from people like yourself and other, you know, people in our government and law enforcement agencies here. I think people are really starting to see that there is something to peer recovery, and that you know, we've got to do something, because every time you turn on the TV, there's some horrific accident where someone has shot someone, and you know, I don't know the specifics. I'd love to know the number, but for most of these violent crimes, I would love to know if there were narcotics involved in what percentage of those violent crimes. You know, I would love to know that number at some point, because I'd be willing to say it'd be in the 90th percentile, you know?
I'll tell you, it's up there really high. I can't put an exact figure on it, but I can tell you in 25 years of experience, violent crime, whether it's property or crimes against persons, homicide, rape, you name it, drugs is a key component. And it just is. And I mean, as you know, I mean, drugs make people do things that they never would do if they were sober.
That's exactly right.
And so sobriety, I'll tell you, y'all are the real warriors, Ashley, on the front lines out there. You and Kyle and these people in this peer recovery. Until I came to this state, I didn't see anything like it. And if we could just mimic and replicate what you all are doing in every state in the United States of America, I'll tell you what, that would be not just a call to action, but I think you'd see a major difference in those communities of making them safer, and just, man, I'll tell you, you know, you can speak to people in ways I'll never be able to. Your personal testimony, and I just want to, any of the people in the peer recovery that's out there listening, don't be afraid to share your story. Everybody has a story. I don't have the same story y'all do. But I can tell you, that story that each of you, and I heard a little bit about Kyle's story, and I've heard a little bit about Ashley's story, those testimonies y'all have, you got to get it out there. It's so much a part of helping people cope, because they're going to listen to you when they won't listen to law enforcement.
And you know, it means, I kind of get choked up a little bit, because it means so much to hear someone in your position say that. You know, like I was telling you before the show, I literally live my life now with the intention, and Lord knows I'm not perfect by any means, but you know, I try to run my life where my motive behind everything that I do is to love God and love people. And there's some days where that's all I can do, because there's some days where I don't love myself. But love God and love people, and that's why, you know, I have found my purpose and my calling in life. And, you know, if we can partner, if the peer community can partner with you guys, and we can partner with the prevention side, and we can partner with the educational side, you know, there's hope, there's light, not only for people like myself, but their family members, their children, and for everyone else in the community. So, Jarad, we normally give the last few minutes to our special guest to just kind of talk to the community, share what's on your heart. If you have a request from the community, if you know, anything of that nature, but if you just want to speak to the community today, tell them what's on your heart. And I just want to tell you one more time, thank you so much for taking your time to come sit down with me today and to shed some light and spread some love, and let us know how much, you know, we're all in this together, that it's one team, one fight. But go ahead and talk to everybody.
Ashley, this is, you know, I've been a part of several interviews since I landed here a couple months ago, and I'll tell you, this has been the one that has really touched me the most. I've never really been able to be a part of seeing somebody that's celebrated 2 years recovery or 4 years recovery. We usually see people at their worst. We have to talk to parents and try to get them through grief and cope with them to to deal with the loss of a loved one. I'll tell you, I've talked to some of my coworkers, and DEA really should stand for doing enforcement altogether. When you mentioned one fight, one team, one mission, that's what it should stand for, because that's when we make our biggest impact globally, is when we do enforcement together. But not just enforcement, it goes beyond enforcement. It's engaging. So doing engagement together, and connecting with one another, because we all have an expertise, we all have a way that we can help out. And I look at it as a tree, and there's think of the biggest tree you've ever seen, and all the branches that branch off of some of these major, huge trees. We all have a branch, and what are we going to do with that part of the tree? And if we can contribute to that branch, and we can keep that tree alive, I think we're doing our part. And so, man, I'm going to be honest. You all are just knocking it out of the park with this peer recovery. I see some big things happening in the future. I can promise you, DEA is going to back you all 110%. We're going to do everything we can to stand beside you all and help you fight this fight that we're all dealing with in certain ways. But I challenge you all. If I could do one thing, anybody that's listening, I challenge you, and I call you to action to be another Ashley, be another Kyle that wants to, instead of being part of the problem, be a part of the solution, because you all are really on the front lines. We get called to the front lines, but y'all are the front lines when you're dealing with this epidemic personally. So there is a way out, and there is hope. I believe in the light that Ashley speaks of. Everybody sees it in a different way, and everybody has their own rock bottom, but you can get out of it, and you can be victorious. And I say join the army that Kyle and Ashley and many others here that might be listening here in Arkansas. And I say go forth and conquer. We have a big state that has a big heart, and many people that are fighting this battle together. But y'all can get out of it. Y'all can be victorious. I mean, this is amazing what y'all are doing. And I say let's fill up one of these stadiums with some peer recovery specialists in the state of Arkansas. That's my challenge to you all. I'd love to be there, and I'd love to speak, because I believe it can happen.
Wow, that's incredible, guys. Did y'all hear that? Call to action. He's daring us, double dog daring us. Okay, guys, so today was a great show, super wonderful show. I'm very excited about it. I just wanted to remind everyone to go and sign up for the peer conference in September. I'll get it out in a second. You'll bear with me. And then also, if anybody has any questions, if you are hurting, if you don't want to live like this anymore, if you're ready to do something different, please just message me here on the show. I'm here for you anytime, day or night. And, I want everybody to be on this side of the fence with us. And we love you guys, every single one of you. If nobody's told you that today, we love you. You guys have a great week. Bye-bye.
Take care.